So we're just gonna have a question. Could you actually step to the mic? It's because, yeah, thanks.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I had a comment and a question. My comment was in regards to what the Imam was speaking on in regards to the Nation of Islam. I wanted to openly say that I disagree and why.
Okay.
With the phrase that they are Muslims.
Okay.
The social work that they have done into the African American community should be commended, and it is definitely underlooked. However, as I understand Islam, to be Muslim is to submit one's will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they failed in that area because of their concept of Allah and their misconception or abandonment of Tawheed. My question, though, is in regards to the contribution in the African American community, not of the past, but of today. The African American community is filled with men and women who are not necessarily even Christians, to be quite honest, even though they may identify themselves as that. They more so would be in the definition from an Islamic perspective of agnostic. And they are emotionally broken. Many of the African American women that I am familiar with and men, they are broken with misconceptions of womanhood and manhood. And what contributions from a Dawah perspective can we do for the African American community? And I'm particularly talking about the street corner, not the local church,
Right.
or whatever, or just the local bars being put in there. But more so, what can we do to contribute and create or to continue the legacy of not just Muslims in America, but Muslims projecting a great look of what Islam looks like into the African American community, and which I would like to also say I think is the most acceptable community in America to Islam. That would be it.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for that. And I'm fine with having differences of opinions, and I appreciate the way that you that you frame that. First, I would say that when it comes to Muslim, yes, we have the Islamic understanding of what it is to be Muslim, right? And then we also have as far as the definition itself, right? You know, the grammatic definition, right? Submitting oneself to the will of Allah. That is very much a subjective realization, right? What you know of God is going to determine how you practice and how you worship, right? So I'm never in a position to speak on anybody else's understanding of God, right? I have to let that be as it is and deal with you based upon your actions. In terms of how we act based on what we say we believe, right? If I don't know anything about a person and their understanding of Tawheed, understanding of the prophetic tradition, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they're a person that is committed to charity, committed to justice, committed to honesty, committed to doing everything that would exemplify a Muslim, and they say they're Muslim, I would have no reason to ask them to, okay, break down your understanding of Allah, because I would gather based on their actions, they got it together. So I can't really speak to the nation, and there's also a question in here. I think I'm addressing another question as well in here at the same time. I can't speak to the theology of the Nation of Islam, and nor am I a person that is coming out to discount anybody. That's just not my lane. That's not what I do, right? Because we're in the same neighborhoods, right? Engaged in the same struggle. And for all the beautiful diversity that we have in here, very few of you are going to be in those spaces, right? So we have to look at who is fighting that fight with you and how they're conducting themselves. So I leave that to that. In terms of dawah, One of the greatest things that we can do is to give examples, is to live positive examples through institution building, right? We got a bunch of churches on the corners, but we don't have institutions that support those churches or masjids, right? So having an active economic base, that's a part of it. Having support, social supports that build up the character of the people in those communities, that's important. And Muslims have in the past played a big part of that. I think what we have kind of reduced dawah to now is running up on people and throwing the Quran at them, or or getting into the semantics, getting into the intellectual aspects of Islam, but not really putting it into practice. And the love is very much non-existent. I have to say, for a lot of times when I'm looking at dawah, people that are approaching folks about Islam, they doing it with anger a lot of times, right? And a lot of chastising and you crazy for believing what you believe, and and you don't have anything else to bring to the table. If I could, can I have, do you mind? Because I don't want to just keep yapping, but I want to get everybody's permission, just 2 minutes really quick, because it's something that I left out when I mentioned Imam Warthi Muhammad and the contribution. Is that okay? 2 minutes real quick? Okay. All right. So how many people in here feel that you are patriots? Okay. We've got a few. All right. I want you to understand something. So Imam Muhammad, what he instituted something called the New World Patriotism Day. New World Patriotism Day, right? We have long been at odds with this idea of buying into the defense of a country that has done us so wrong, right? And not just African American, not just black folks, Muslims, just check the box, right? So a whole lot of folks have been done wrong. But I asked everybody what the term Khalifa meant. It boils down to stewardship. Patriotism is a reflection. It is an expression of stewardship. To be a patriot, to uphold the highest ideals of your nation, right? Truth and justice. These are things that we like to associate with America. Imam Muhammad did a masterful job of reconciling that for our community, where we could feel that there was no separation, no dichotomy, we were not bifurcated, separated, right? Living a schizophrenic existence, to say I'm an African American Muslim and I'm a patriot and I love the land that I'm in. I'm a steward of it. That's an Islamic obligation, right? So reframe, the way we see that. And last thing is the title that he took on of spokesperson for human. He said Muslim American spokesperson for human salvation. Spokesperson. Everybody in there has the potential to be a spokesperson. Not the leader, but everybody has the potential to be a spokesperson. And for human salvation, not the salvation of African Americans, even though we've had a really rough time and there's other folks who've had a rough time, but I can go from being a victim to being an advocate for humanity. So that's also a Muslim sentiment. It's a Quranic sentiment as well. So I know I took way too much time. I'm sorry. You're good. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say something very briefly. I'm from Harlem, and the beat of Malcolm X was in Harlem. And the mosque on 116th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard was where a lot of Muslims now, but those who were not Muslim, who were drug addicts and stressed out with life itself, right, walked through doors practically with needles in their arms and walked out clean. I mean, we saw that every day. And even those who were not members of the nation benefited from many of the teachings of the Nation of Islam. So it's not a theological discussion today, but I just wanted to share that with my own experience, that I saw the benefit of a lot of the programs of that community. And again, I encourage you to come and do some research.
That's the Schomburg Institute.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a few questions here. I don't think we'll have time to answer all of them, but we can get like one or two.
Well, if our responses are brief, we might.
Okay.
I hear you. I'll tell the other guy.
Okay, so try to keep the responses brief, I guess. So I think both of you guys touched upon, with both of you talking about the rich history of African American Muslims in U.S. history. But unfortunately, we're not all educated and we're not taught it in schools and whatnot. So this question's kind of asking, what are the best resources? What are the best places we can go to? What are the in what ways can we educate ourselves on the history?
The Sheikh, go ahead first.
Yes, I'll take it. Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying you have a place like the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. It's a 92-year-old research unit of the New York Public Library, located in Harlem. And we can say that is a Mecca, if we want to use that terminology. You need to venture out and just come. Take a weekend if you can, if you have the wherewithal. We have a scholars in residence program there. It's continuous for those who are inclined as researchers and scholars. There is a 6-month residency with the $35,000 stipend. If you come and be in residence there, you can access a lot of information there and imbibe some of the culture that remains, notwithstanding gentrification. We still have Harlem as a Mecca, for these experiences. So you can do that. And there are other institutions around the country where you can go and learn about this history. Also, I strongly encourage that we make a point of all of the classes and venues that we have of this such that we always include a component about this history and about this culture. Because face it, many of us will not have an opportunity to do this again until next year, right? But we shouldn't wait until next year. And I also want to say that social media is a great thing. I love technology, although I'm still learning how to use my phone, But social media is a virtual reality. It's a virtual community. You need to establish physical communities where you live so that you can become an alternative to what you are fed in mainstream media and elsewhere. So there are many opportunities for us to learn this history. We just have to take the step and have the will to do that. And of course, you have mentors. You can reach out to me or the brother or so many people at this conference today and tomorrow. So you should make a commitment to do that, inshallah.
So this next question asks, many times pro-Black sentiments and movements also invoke anti-white sentiments. How would you suggest avoiding that?
Repeat the question.
Many times pro-Black sentiments and movements also invoke anti-white sentiments. How would you suggest avoiding that?
Okay. I'm for. Yeah. Well, racism is racism, right? Now, we also have a narrative that only white people can be racist because you have power to back up your racism. Bigotry knows no color, right? And as Muslims, I would say also that beyond being Muslim, as human beings, Malcolm said to us once that he was willing to work with anybody. He didn't care what color they were, so long as they wanted to change the miserable conditions of the world. And so I subscribe to that. So no, bigotry against any people, anybody, anywhere. I'm wearing a pen here. It's a key. And what is this key? It's a key that is a replica of the homes that are lost, taken away from them, stolen by occupation in Israel. And so the Palestinian people have this replica of a key that someday, one day, they will be able to return home and have the key to the homes that they once lost. So this is part of our struggle. We don't care what color you are, you know. And as a Muslim, you have no justification, no leg to stand on. It's not acceptable. You also have to realize that part of our miseducation perpetuates this in us. And it starts almost at infancy. This morning I was watching something on Facebook where the little girl was given a doll, a black doll, little white girl, couldn't be more than 5 years old. She was given a doll. It was a black doll. And when she opened that, she was distraught. She's screaming, threw the doll across the floor, right? And you could hear adults in the background laughing. Oh, look at her. She doesn't like that. What happened? You don't like this doll, you know. So it starts at a very early age, right? And children are innocent and they're raised innocent. Quran also tells us about that, you know, that it's the parents that make their children what they are, you know. So it's our responsibility to acknowledge the bigotry that we've been that we've been fed as children. And that's really child abuse, you know, when we raise our children to be little bigots, you know, little baby bigots. How obscene is that, you know? I mean, really obscene. So brutal, you know. And then so you wind up with adults who are also like that, who do garner power, and they can implement their will on people who are less able to implement theirs on others. So be clear. You cannot walk around talking about freedom, justice, and equality for all while you harbor hatred and bigotry against other people. Another group that we never mentioned are the Native Americans. Do you ever think about why we never do that? Because they've just been erased from the public narrative. It's your job as Muslims to bring that back. Inshallah.
I will be brief this time. I would say ours is a religion of principle. And when you find acts of resistance, collective, you know, movements that are taking place and they take on the appearance of hate, you just have to question the principle. Is it a movement of principle? Is it an expression of principle? Or is it an expression of personality? Are we getting caught up in what we see, or are we actually looking at the principle of the matter? So, I mean, it's not difficult. It's just a matter of principle, principles of justice. That's going to look the same regardless. It's not affected by who's involved. Justice is justice. So that's it.
Okay. So I think that's going to wrap up our session.